All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, my name is Christy Vanderhoop. I'm the Career Center Coordinator at Las Positas, and I'm going to show you how to link up with people with LinkedIn. So first of all, why is it important for you to have a LinkedIn profile? So there are over 17,000 alumni that use LinkedIn. And we have 95% of recruiters use LinkedIn regularly. So they do searches looking for people that have a certain skill set or are in a certain major. The majority of people in the US use LinkedIn. And then also most people get a job through someone they know. So about 70% of jobs are found through people we know. And those can be people that we know very well, or they could be people that we've only met online. And so I'm going to show you how to expand your network and meet more people. And LinkedIn also can increase your chances of getting an interview, especially for an entry-level job. So it doubles your chances of getting an interview if you have a comprehensive LinkedIn profile that is filled out versus if you just have a bare bones LinkedIn that doesn't have much information, or you don't have a LinkedIn at all. And so once you're getting started on LinkedIn, you're just going to, um, it'll look like this. You can choose, there's a student login, and you'll do that to get started. And then when you're editing your profile, it'll look kind of like this. You'll click on this pencil icon in order to edit different sections. And then in order to add a profile section, you'll click here where it says add profile section. And then down here, it will let you know how far along you are in completing your comprehensive profile. And so I'm going to walk you through each section of the profile that you should fill out in order to have a comprehensive profile. And then we'll also talk about optional sections of the profile that you can include. And then we'll talk about how to network and talk with people and find jobs and internships using LinkedIn. Let's talk a little bit about your headshot. So the headshot is right here, first thing people see. And the thing you want to keep in mind is your profile is 7 to 10 times more likely to be viewed when you have a photo with your LinkedIn profile. And so you want to get a professional looking headshot. It doesn't need to be done by a professional. You could just wear something nice and stand in front of a background and have someone take a picture of you. You shouldn't have other people in the photo or like your cute little dog or anything like that. You want to make sure it looks like you. You want to fill the frame with your face. Choose the right mood and expression for your audience. And dress appropriately for your industry. So people in career services dress up a little bit more. So I'm wearing a blazer and like a sweater here. And then you want to make sure your background is not distracting. You don't want to have any obvious selfies. And when someone's taking a picture of you, keep in mind that sometimes the most flattering angle of you is when the person taking the picture is a little bit above you. So we're going to look at some samples. So these are some samples of good headshots for LinkedIn profile. We can see that it shows like the face, the shoulders, person is smiling, the person is dressed like they might dress for work. And so these are some good LinkedIn photos. And these are some that need a little bit of work. So um, if you want, tell me in chat what's wrong with some of these photos. You can just write in the chat anything you notice about like how people are dressed or the expression on their face or any props you see, type of photo. Okay, yeah, good. Someone's saying, yeah, you shouldn't be wearing a Santa hat. You shouldn't have pets in a photo. You definitely shouldn't have any kind of alcohol or liquor in a photo on LinkedIn or really any social media that an employer could access. Yeah, you don't want a clear selfie photo. Good. So you don't want to be wearing sunglasses. People should be able to see you. You should be smiling. And then you want to wear clothes like what you would be wearing for work. So yes, that's what you want in your picture. And then, so we talked about the photo. And then the next part is your contact info section. So that's going to go right here. So in this section, you can add your info. And then you can also add, like if you have a website, you can put that in there. If you have a GitHub or a portfolio, you could put a link to that in your contact info section. So you can edit that portion. And then the other thing that you're gonna have at the top of your profile is your cover photo. So I love the mountains. So I have a photo of snow-covered mountains as my cover photo. I took that photo when I was at North Cascades National Park in Washington. Beautiful park. If you ever go up there, totally recommend it. So you can choose something that, represents you in some way, but still in kind of a like formal, professional way. So people will use landscape photos. People may use Canva to design a LinkedIn banner. You can search for that. And this is the aspect ratio you would want, the type of file you would want to generate. But the reason behind the cover photo is that we remember 80% of what we see. So it really helps people remember you. And so there's some ideas here, and like I said, I'll be sharing the slides with you. Someone asked a question about contact info. Should you add your phone number or just email is good? I would say don't add your phone number because you don't want to be getting robocalls or weird calls from people. So I would say just use your personal email. Some people don't even do that. Some people just put their work email as well. But I would say don't do the phone number. Someone's asking about the cover photo. So the cover photo here is, for me, it's the mountains. And then I'll show you some other samples. So here is one of our former alumni, Henry Palmer. He transferred to UC Berkeley. So his cover photo is a view of the bay from the UC Berkeley campus. And then we have Ana Escalante. She has a cover photo of something that looks like she made on Canva. So she designed her own banner and then put that up there. Okay, and then someone's asking, what if there is no cover photo? I would recommend always having a cover photo because, like I said, it helps people remember you. It says something about you. So I recommend choosing a cover photo. Here's another one. Again, this person transferred to San Jose State, so they have a San Jose State cover photo. So that's the cover photo. And then the next part is your headline. So your headline is going to be this part right here. So this is my headline. So it says a couple of different things that I do. So if someone was looking, like if an employer was looking for me or a student or someone else, then I would know some of the different areas of expertise that I have. So you can edit this part by clicking on the pencil symbol and then clicking on going down to where it says headline down here. And so you can go ahead and change that part. And some suggested headline ideas for students would be these. So you can try, you can use keywords from your industry or your major that an employer would want to know, like key skills that you have. You can add some kind of tagline, like this one says building game-changing consumer products. I would recommend you not just saying like honors student seeking new opportunities because that doesn't really let people know what you're looking for. It's better to say honor student seeking marketing position where I can leverage my social media and graphic design skills or something like that. It tells people a little bit more about you. Here's another sample that I really like from a website called Resume Worded. So this is one way to structure it. You can first put the type of job you're aspiring to get, or the type of internship. Then you can put in something about some keywords from your industry, like programming, or someone said bio, like maybe you put in some biology level skills like lab technician or something like that. And then you can put in some keywords that show technical skills that you have. So here we have JavaScript and Python for someone who is wanting to do some software development. So this is just one way to go about formatting that. Okay, and some people, someone asked a question where they said a lot of people are writing student with the at symbol, and they're wondering if using the at symbol is unprofessional. I think it's okay to use the at symbol in this case because a lot of students are, I think on LinkedIn you can be a little less formal. So I think maybe if we go back to this previous page, yeah, like she used the at symbol. Yeah, I think that is fine on LinkedIn. We say LinkedIn is more of a social tone. So you can be a little bit more abbreviated, but it's not text message. It's not that informal. Okay, and then here's another sample headline. So she chose to talk about, I really like how she said, aspiring digital marketer, passionate about data-driven strategy and creative branding. So she's thinking about some of the keywords that people might be looking for in her industry. So that's the headline. And those three things really matter a lot because it's the first thing people see about you, your photo, your headline. And then the next section is the about section or the summary section. So if we look at a LinkedIn profile, where that's going to show up is down here, right below that information. And people can only see the first 4 lines of this section. So you want to make it engaging enough that people will click see more and they'll want to read a little bit more about you. And so in this section, you can put highlights. You can talk about the reason why you're interested in what you're studying and what you're excited to learn. You can use keywords that show skills or interests that you have. So if you look at, say, 10 different job descriptions for the type of internship or job you want, you'll start to see common keywords and skills, and you could incorporate that into your about summary. Or you could ask ChatGPT or other AI for common keywords in your industry, and then you could incorporate any of the keywords that apply to you. But write your summary so that it's positioned for the next job or internship that you want to get. And like I said, focus on those 2 sentences, those first 4 lines, so people will want to click more. And then you can use I, me, or my. You can be a little bit more personal in this than you would in a resume. In a resume, we generally don't use I, but on LinkedIn, we definitely can. It's a little more free. And so I have some samples that you can check out here. There's a couple of good websites with samples for different majors. And also, these are some kind of cool samples where you can see different styles of how people format it. So this one is like talking about sort of where they grew up, what they're interested in. This one is more like making a list, making something catchy. Some people will put skills at the bottom. So, or certain accomplishments, but like he has a skills list. So there's different ways to do it. There's no like one right way to write your summary. The next section in your profile is the featured section. So this is your opportunity to highlight anything that you really want people to see at the beginning of your profile. So like you may have a certification at the bottom of your profile, but maybe you want it to pop up earlier. You can put that in the featured section. Or maybe you have something in your portfolio that you really want people to see, or you want them to be able to find your portfolio or your website more easily. So you can add that to the featured section here on your profile. By clicking on plus, you can add any type of different feature as you see here. And so just as a sample, you can see mine. I put some awards that I received. I put a YouTube video that I created and a digital badge that I got. But people can always see those first three things. And so one thing I do want to advise is I do see sometimes students post their associate's degree to LinkedIn. This actually kind of makes you vulnerable to fraud because fraudsters will take your degree and try to duplicate it. And so don't post your degree on LinkedIn. Don't post a picture of it. Definitely post yourself wearing your cap and gown, and talk about getting your degree, but don't post photos of your degree. And then this is just another sample of a featured section, someone that wanted to feature some newsletters they created, and they were a marketing major. Okay, and we have a question in the chat. Someone says, does it matter if we have to attach a certificate related to the information, or can it be any certificate? I would choose certificates that are related to your either your work experience, your education, or your leadership skills. So you don't necessarily need to put everything there, but anything that highlights leadership or technical work experience or academic achievement. Okay, so the next section is experience. And so we will go there. So with this section, it's going to look kind of like your resume. Hold on a second. I'm trying to get back to LinkedIn. So it's going to look kind of like your resume. We'll go back to Erin's. And so in here, we see that she includes work student involvement. So it could be unpaid work. It could be leader of a club or society on campus. So she has that. You can also include internships, externships. You can also include, let's see, additional internships. She's done several different internships. This is here at Las Positas. She was involved in FBLA. So like I said, it can be professional involvement and other things like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be paid work, but leadership experience is good to put in this area. And whenever you can, it's good for you to write quantifiable accomplishment statements. So that involves, like if I show you mine, that involves putting things like, how many people did you help? Or, what were some of the things that you achieved? Or what were some of the skills that you used in order to do the work? So you can include that. And as you can see when you're looking at someone's profile, at first you only see, oh, let's see, it looks like I can't redo it. But let's see if we could go back to Erin's. You can see at first you only see like one bullet point, and then if you want to know more, you have to click see more in order to learn a bit. So you want to think about like what's most relevant or like your top highlight that you want to include at the top to attract people's attention and make them want to read more. So a lot of this can be copied and pasted from your work experience. And I'll share that like in mine, I included some volunteer work that I did because it's relevant to the type of work that I do. And on a normal LinkedIn profile, your volunteer work is all the way down here at the bottom, and I wanted it to pop up a little bit earlier, so I chose to include it in my work experience. Okay, and then the next part is the education section. So you can put your major. If your GPA is 3.0 or higher, you can add that. You can add awards, activities, and then make sure that you get your school's icon whenever you add the education so that you can then connect with that school's page. So, for example, when you click on this, it's going to take you directly to the school's page. So that's what you want. You want that kind of hyperlink connection. Okay. So that's education. And then next, we have the volunteering section. So like I said, this is something that shows you can add. You may think like, oh, volunteer work, maybe it's not that important, but actually it is. It shows you're well-rounded, that you give back to your community. You can include like committees you served on, positions you held, skills you used. If your volunteer work was religious or political, you can just decide if you want to post that depending on how much it applies to the work that you want to do in the future. And then 1 in 5 managers hired someone because of their volunteer experience, so it's definitely worth including. The next section is your skills section. So what will happen with the skills section is you have the skills section. You can choose what you want to be your top skills, and then you can add more. You don't need to necessarily include every single skill you have. The main thing is you want to include the skills that are relevant to whatever your future job is going to be or whatever you're studying for. And whenever you can, you're going to want to try to get endorsements from people to show that you have this skill. And so what you can do is I recommend going on LinkedIn, finding your friends, classmates, former supervisors, go on there and endorse them for a skill, and then send them a message and ask them, say, hey, I endorsed you for this skill. I was wondering if you would be willing to take a look at my profile and endorse me for a skill. And that just shows that you have some kind of public evidence that you have this skill. And so you can add as many skills as you want. It'll pull ideas from your profile. Also, whenever you mention skills that you learned in a certain job, they'll get imported to the skills section as well. So like as you're filling this out, when you put a skill in here, it's going to also come over here. And then know that you can also reorder your skills. So you can move them around. So if you want a certain skill to come up higher, because it's more related to the job you're seeking, you could put that up higher. And then you just redo that. So that's the skills section. And the benefit of that is it really increases views by recruiters. So it's much easier for them to find you when you have your skills listed. And then there are additional sections you can add. So honors, awards, certifications, publications, patents, projects. Projects is definitely a good section to add if you did projects related to your major, languages, courses you've taken. You don't need to put everything, but just think about what's relevant to what you're seeking in the future. And then another thing you can do to show public proof of your work is you can ask people to write recommendations for you. So I have people that have written me recommendations, and then sometimes you can do an exchange. Like I wrote one for Sarah Holtzclaw, and she wrote one for me. So you can also do things like that. So that's everything about the profile. Before I move on and start talking about what you can do on LinkedIn, are there any questions about the different sections of the profile that I went over? Okay, so now let's talk about what you can do next. Next, you're going to try to connect with as many people as possible. Your goal is to eventually get to the magic number of 500. And why that's a magic number is once you get 500 people, LinkedIn stops counting the number of connections you have on the public view of your profile. So I'll show you on my profile. Now that I have 500 connections, it just says that I have 500 plus connections. So it's not telling you the number anymore. Also, once you reach that, you can network more easily, you can meet more people more easily, and you'll get a lot more relevant content in your home feed as well. And the other thing, so look for your professors, look for your classmates, friends, parents' friends, your friends' parents, former bosses. And then as you meet new people, connect with them as well. So, like, let's say you meet someone at an event or they're a guest speaker, you can look them up on LinkedIn, you can send them a connection request, and you can also you can send them a note with a connection request if you're not sure if they'll remember you. You can connect with me, so feel free to um, scan this QR code if you want, if you have LinkedIn and you want to connect. I definitely recommend that you follow companies that you're interested in working for. You'll get news, you'll get posts about job opportunities, and a recruiter can see if you're following their company or not, so it shows interest. You can also join groups. So one of the groups that I belong to is the California Career Development Group. Let's see if I can find it. Might have to go into my profile again. I don't know why it's not popping up on this view. Maybe I need to make it a little bit smaller. Usually it's over here. I think if I click on groups, so these are some of the groups that I belong to. So if I go into this group, I can see there's a ton of members. One of the benefits of being part of a group is people will post different hiring opportunities, things like that. It looks like this group is a little bit old. No one's posted for 2 years, so let me go to a more recent one. So this person posted 6 days ago. So people will post about different opportunities, different workshops that you could attend, trends in your field, different speaker or different conferences you could attend. The other thing you can do in a group is even if you don't have LinkedIn Premium, so normally when you want to talk to someone that you don't know on LinkedIn, you need to have LinkedIn Premium, you need to pay. But if you're part of a group, you can instantly message anybody in that group without having LinkedIn Premium. So you could search for someone in that group and message them. So that's a great way to meet new people. You can also, for looking for jobs or internships, you could follow certain hashtags. So in the homepage, you could put in a hashtag like internship, hiring now, and then you'll see anyone in your network or anything. If you put from my network, you'll see anyone in your network that posted that. Or if you want to just see something posted within the last 24 hours, you can see a lot of different opportunities. And then you can also contact alumni through LinkedIn. So this is one of the really good things about LinkedIn is that we have so many alumni from LPC on this social media. So you would go to your school. So let's say we'll go, Erin is an alumna of Las Positas. So we'll click on Las Positas College. And then we can click on alumni. And then let's see. All of you gave me some different majors earlier. And let's see, someone said they were biology allied health. So I'm going to put that in here. And then you can see where people that majored in biology allied health, where they're working. And so some of them are currently working somewhere. So if you want, you could click on that person's profile. You could then read a little bit more about what they've done, different jobs they've had, where they went to school. And if you want, you could connect with this person to ask for career advice. So this is a really helpful thing, especially if you don't know anyone that's working in the career that you are interested in. So you can click connect. And then since you've never met this person, you would always want to click add a note. And then on here, this is the type of note that you might add. So first you want to talk about your shared connection, that you studied the same thing at Las Positas. And then you invite them to connect so you could hear more about their career journey. And if you don't want to put this part yet, you could take that part off to see if they connect. Even when you don't have LinkedIn Premium, which I don't, I've never paid it for it, you can send 3 personalized connections a month, and you can include up to 200 characters. So if I were you, I'd just send 3 of these every month and then see who I can connect with. And then once the person accepts your connection, then you can write way more than 200 characters and you can have a full-on conversation with them, or you could set up like a Zoom call with them or a coffee chat or something to learn more about them. So that's another thing you can do. And then, like I told you about groups, you can join different groups. So you can just do a search for something. Like let's say I want to say like somebody said that they are a business major. So we could say like business analyst groups. Okay, let's say you're interested in that. And then you can go to groups, and then it's just going to give you the groups, and you can see which ones you want to join. And you're 5 times more likely to be viewed if you join and are active in groups. And it's just a great way to stay engaged in your industry and know about trends in your field. Okay, we talked a little bit about finding internships. I'll just go into this feature a little bit more. when you click on the jobs feature here, you can put in a job or internship. So like you could put in psychology intern, and then you could put in your location, and then you can make sure you can go to the filters. You can make sure you filter only for internships, and then you can see what you get and apply for different internships. And if you like what you see here, you can set a job alert so you'll get emailed about this particular, but I only got 3, so maybe that's, I know usually it might be called more like mental health intern or something different under psychology. But if I put in like marketing intern, I bet I'll get a lot more. I got 74. So if I like this alert, I can set that alert. And then you can also reach out to hiring managers. So the hiring manager is not always called a hiring manager. Sometimes they're working in HR, they might be called the recruiting manager, the talent acquisition lead, or sometimes they're the head of a department that you're applying to. And so, ways to connect with those folks, one is if you are on the job section, sometimes they'll tell you who posted the job, but that's not always the case. So let's say I wanted to apply for this job at GitHub. I could see if there's anyone at the school that I'm attending that I'm connected to, try to reach out to them, see if they know anyone that works, tell them I'm interested in working at GitHub. I probably wouldn't tell them that I want them to help me get an internship, but I would say I'm interested in working at GitHub and I just want to learn more about what it's like to work there. But I could also go to the main section of LinkedIn. I could put in the company GitHub. I could put in people. I could see if I know anyone that works there. It looks like I don't have any first level connections probably. Oh, okay, I have a few. I could also, but this is just using the keyword GitHub, so maybe that's a little bit tricky because they don't necessarily work there. But this person works there. So I could reach out to her, or I could go here and then could also choose second level. So second would be like friends of friends. And then I can go to all filters, and down here, I could put in a title, right? So I could maybe put in like talent acquisition or talent manager. And then I can look for somebody with that title that works at GitHub and see if I could contact them. Or another option would be that I could go directly to the GitHub company. I could click on people, and then I could put in that keyword again. I could put in talent acquisition, for example. And then maybe I could find a recruiter living in the San Francisco Bay Area and see if I could maybe message or connect or reach out to one of these people. And here is a sample message of what you might write to the hiring manager. So just kind of telling them you're learning about opportunities in your field, you're interested in the company, you want to learn more about, you want to ask for advice. Remember that you're never asking directly for a job or internship. You're always, because you're just meeting these people, so you don't want, we all feel uncomfortable if we just met someone and they immediately ask us for something. So remember, you're building relationships with people. It takes longer, but you build trust, and then once you connect with this person, get some advice, then you could just let them know that you applied to a job or internship at their company. And you can also try to connect with people you know who work at the company, because even if they're not the hiring manager, if you know someone and they know you, they can recommend you, and that can also help you get a job or internship. Like I was saying, the majority of us get jobs or internships through people you know. So if you just apply online, you don't have as good of a chance as if you apply online and have someone refer you, or you talk to the hiring manager or something in addition. So another thing I would recommend too is just being active on LinkedIn. Could just be like 10 minutes a day. You could comment on what people write. You could share an article or post. I know I repost a lot of internships that I see. So you're welcome to follow me to get my reposts of different internship opportunities. You could share accomplishments, like an award or an honor you received. You could tag someone that you know to congratulate them. You can share about events you've attended, like conferences or information sessions or a tour of an employer office. You can also write about something that's helped you in your career journey. You could post a meme about your field, but make sure you stay appropriate, it's positive. So some samples. Here is Yolanda Finchenko. She is the director of iGate and also Daybreak Labs, which is a startup incubator. And so she posts about some different events that she has put on. And then she tags different people that are involved in those events. And another sample would be this one. So this is a former student from LPC. And so he posted about a conference that he went to and just how much he learned at the conference, some of the people that helped him get to the conference. He tagged them. He adds some hashtags at the bottom and some photos of himself at the conference. So this is another type of post you could put. So that's pretty much everything I want to show you about what you can do on LinkedIn. Hopefully you'll go home and add a little more to your profile, or you'll post or do one of these things, or you'll connect with a few alumni on LinkedIn. And if you'd like further assistance with your profile, feel free to set up an appointment with me for help with your profile. You can use this QR code to make an appointment, or you can call our office. And I'd like to thank the Tri-Valley Career Center and Sarah Holzkopf for a little bit of content from this presentation.